everyone. Welcome to How to Sell More Cars. I'm your host, Terry Lancaster. We've got a great guest today. I'm very excited to talk to Mr. Charles Cannon. Charles is the general manager of Lexus of Serramonte, 20-year veteran of the automotive industry, and a brand new author. He just opened up he just wrote the new book, Rules to the Game, My Life in the Car Business. And this is a great guide. It does a good job of presenting the opportunities there in the car business. And we're going to talk about the opportunities that they have in just a minute. And we're going to talk about the path that he took. And he kind of took a regular path from a path that a lot of people face because, number one, didn't really want to be in the car business, which is a common story. Got in the car business and found out that it was a breeding ground for opportunity. So he picked and chose his opportunities and shoved some bad ones off to the side and found some great ones and hung on like crazy and finds himself here. And then he put the book, the rules to the game, and he has, I believe there are 20 rules to the game. And what I like is number one, right off the bat, the number one rule for the game of the car business, of life itself, is don't be a dinosaur. You have to change with the times, and no better where to start, because the times, my friend, they are a-changing. Charles, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. So don't be a dinosaur. Tell us what that means and how we can avoid it.
Well, for a lot of people in our business, once they find something that's successful and works for them, they stick with it. And sometimes that can be good, but overall, what happens is business evolves, and what worked today won't necessarily work tomorrow, and vice versa. So you just have to constantly be alert on what trends are happening. Read stuff in your industry, see what's going on out there. Don't be afraid to experiment with certain things, and just know that this business constantly changes and evolves. And just know that the people who have that mindset are the ones that are successful.
And so we've got a lot going. I told someone that the car business has changed more in the last 10 years than it did in the last 100. And the next 10 years are probably going to make the last 10 years look like smooth sailing. I've been in the business. We're just talking. I've been in the business 35, 40 years. I've never seen anything like what we've had the last couple of years, cars selling at MSRP or above every day, all day. That's just crazy. Pre-orders, you're having to go from the 500 cars on the lot to 6 cars on the lot. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the changes in the dealership and what are the dinosaur traps right now that dealers have to avoid?
Well, the thing is that I call this, when COVID hit, the great reset for our industry. And what I mean by that is, dealers and manufacturers had a chance to see that, you don't have to have 500 cars on the ground in order to be successful. You can have, there's got to be a balance, obviously, but, I was actually giving you an idea. I was at a Lexus event, and normally a dealership carries 75, 80 days car supply of new cars. They're telling us they don't want no more than 20 because they see that's the sweet spot for us. And I think that works because, one, it makes us more profitable, because when a guest comes in, instead of seeing 20 of the same car on the lot, they see 1 or 2. This creates a sense of urgency for them. 1, 2, manufacturers have to spend less on incentives because these cars are turning quickly. And 3, the dealerships, they realize that they can be just as profitable, if not more profitable, without having a bunch of cars on the ground. So it's just a great reset for us. And I think it's something that was long overdue anyway. And this was just the point that triggered it and put it over the top. So I know you said it's changed in the last 10 years, but I would argue really this last 2 years has changed way more than it's changed in the last 10 or 15.
Yeah, in the last 100, the last 2 years are literally unprecedented.
Yeah,
I can't think of any other time except maybe at the dawn of the automotive industry. And do you think, no one knows, no one's got the crystal ball, but do you think this is the new normal for that everyone was talking about during the COVID, that dealers are going to have 10, 15 days of inventory, 30 days, 20 days inventory on the lot, and no one's going to get back to those 500, 600?
If the manufacturers are smart, yes. And talking to a lot of people who are across the industry, that seem like what the manufacturers are going to do. I just hope that they don't start, 2 or 3 years down the line and start creeping up to 35, 40, 50-day supply, because, they just want to see what they can get away with. Yeah. I hope they keep it around the 15, 20-day supply, because to me, that's the sweet spot, and it allows everybody to make money and be profitable.
that's the thing. The manufacturers have the dealers at literally at gunpoint. You have to buy as many cars as they tell you you have to buy. And what drove it up at the beginning, the unions had the manufacturers over the barrel, and they had to build as many cars as the union said. So there's a lot of parts in play, and we'll see how it change out. But what do we need to change as an industry? What do you need to change at the dealership level, at the salesperson level, to function, to thrive in this day where people have to order their cars and they don't get that immediate gratification of the car, right then and there. As soon as they stroke the check, boom, they get the keys.
Well, that's been another reset, because for salespeople, you're usually in today's business, and it's a business of instant gratification. And you're having to change the mindset of, okay, I need to look down the line. And that's one of the things you notice the high achievers in our industry do. They think long, medium, and short term. And the average person, the average salesperson, or the ones below average, they just think short term. They don't think about building a relationship. So by you ordering a car, it almost forces you to build a relationship, because if let's say the customer ordered a car from you 3 or 6 months ago, if you wait until the car gets there, they may have forgot about you. They may have ordered somewhere else. It forces you to follow up and build a relationship and build that anticipation for the guest and say, hey, here's what's going on. And then knowing that it's not just your dealership, it's not just your brand, it's everywhere. And it doesn't matter where they go. Chances are the car that they want is not going to be on the ground unless they get extremely lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you said that, because that's what I call it. It's forced follow-up. You have to make friends right then and there, because if you deliver and you're done, or if you sign the deal and you're done, you ain't done, because it ain't done until they drive off, and that could be 6-12 months from now when you get that car. So you have to learn to make friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you do. You have no choice.
Yeah. So well, let's talk about the book. You go through the book from your very first days. It's The Rules to the Game: My Life in the Car Business. It's available on Amazon. Charles Cannon III, CC. It says in the book, his friends, and his mama calls him. His mama's here today, so hi, moms. Everybody say hi. But you did a great job of pointing out, and I've got young nephews who are 22, 23 years old, looking for their way in the world, and I've recommended the car business to them, and I got kind of the same response that I think you had then is, well, that wasn't what I was planning on doing. I was planning on my nephew being a chef, and you were planning on being a veterinarian, and the car business for so many is what happens when your plans don't work out.
Yes.
And then people find out how much opportunity there is in the car business. Even with these 2 years that we've had, what are the opportunities in the car business look like right now?
Right now, and I've been talking to some of my salespeople about it that started in this business 2 years ago, that this is such an unprecedented time. And the amount of money they're making is not normal, quote unquote, because, we're looking at where if you're just an average, below average salesperson, you're going to sell a car and you're going to make great money, versus what it was pre-COVID, where you really had to work. So I'm working on changing the mentality of our team and think of, building a business within a business. I know that sounds cliche, but that's really what it is. If you look at it that way and look, how can you generate your own business and not rely on dealership traffic? That's where the people that are long-term successful make great money. And, I wish I was taught that in the very beginning. I was taught, just deal with the customer in front of you and figure it out and learn on, trial by error. There wasn't really a lot of training involved when I first got into business.
Yeah. I think that's pretty standard in the car business. And this is like this idea of William J. in the chat box calls it hunting mentality versus a farming mentality. Yeah. Today, people just stand at the dealership and they're picking that low hanging fruit, because there's fruit swinging by every day, and that you got all the leads. But that's not the way it's always been. And you talked about in the book the things that you did as a salesperson to start building this, and this idea of building the business within the business and building yourself up and building these relationships and living off the repeats and the referrals and getting more reviews. That's like the secret that you don't really learn. Most salespeople don't learn until a couple years in the business, because those first couple years is just flailing, desperately, trying to survive. and then you figure out the way you should have been doing it all along.
Yeah, well, not only that, but even if you do teach somebody, because it's not instant gratification, they'll dip their toes into it, then they'll forget about it because, oh, I'm selling the customer in front of me. And the problem is that eventually your business goes like this because you're relying on dealership traffic. And I preach all the time that, you know, you have to think of it long term. You have to build relationships. You have to figure out what can you do that fits your personality to get customers in the door that come and ask for you repeatedly. And you know, I always tell people just, you know, use the technology we have. Like, you know, we have software to where, you know, when a customer comes in into our service drive and they bought a car from you in the past, you know, if you know, for example, they're golf fanatics and they come into service, you know, you go buy some golf balls with this branded with your car, with your brand on there, just put it on the dash, say, hey, I thought about you, boom, here you go. And, you know, that stuff like that goes a long way. You know, following people on social media, you know, obviously you need permission to do that. But when you follow them on social media and you build relationships that way, that's a quick, easy way to follow with somebody. You see when somebody had a baby, when they got a new job, you know, different things like that. You can tell them congratulations. And they go, oh, yeah, this is, you know, this is my salesperson that, you know, reached out to me and genuinely cares about me and my family and what's going on.
Yeah. And you build the relationship. And another thing that happens in the business, and this is one of the things that you went through, is you got to be pretty good at this, that you built these relationships. And this is the big opportunity from a salesperson level and from a dealership level too. The big opportunity is your opportunity to build these connections on social media. I've got more contacts in this than NASA had in every computer in the world, you know, 15 years ago. Literally the world is at my fingertips. I can have this conversation just like this. And these are opportunities, you know, that we didn't have 20, even 10 years ago. So, yes, you know, that's the big opportunity. But the conundrum is, once a salesperson gets to be pretty good at that, and they're first getting that taste of good money, they're getting the cars rolling in, they're starting to build this book of business, they're starting to see some repeats and referrals. The big boss knocks on their door and says, hey, you ought to be a manager. And not everybody is thrilled about that, and not everybody ought to do that.
Yeah, it's a totally different skill set. I tell people that all the time. Just because you're a great salesperson, it does not make you a great manager. You have to learn, because you have to learn to lead people, and you have to learn to genuinely care. And not everybody has a mentality, because, you know, when you're a salesperson, it's really team I. You know, obviously you work when the confines of dealership and you do what's best for your fellow salespeople and all that, but it's really an individual sport to a certain degree. When you're a manager, it is not team I. If you're team I, you won't last long. If you only worry about what's best for you and you don't care about the other people, and then you have to worry about, it's a skill set of training people, holding them accountable, make sure they're following up, and you know, you're imparting your knowledge on that person and the people around you, and making sure that they're doing the job they're supposed to do.
So so how do you do that? I mean, this and I struggle with this, and this is one of the things I do is I train salespeople to market themselves. I tell everybody I'm the worst sales trainer in the history of the world because I never sold a car, couldn't close a screen door on a submarine, but I'm a heck of a marketer. And I think the sales job has changed much more, and is in the process of changing from a closing job to a marketing job. But getting people over that hurdle and looking past the next hill and the next up isn't as easy as it sounds. How do you do that?
Well, you know, from my point of view, I relate my personal experiences of stuff I did. And, you know, I tell all kinds of stuff. And I know that if I tell people 10 ideas, they may gravitate to one or two. Again, depending on the personality, their comfort level, and different things like that. And then I try to find things that are free. Obviously, there's time involved, but, you know, just different things they can do to follow with their guests. And I always tell them you have to think long-term strategy. What is best for the guests? What is best so you can build a relationship with them? So then they want to voluntarily refer their friends and family to you. Oh, I know this person down the street. They take care of me all the time on cars. And, you know, and I tell them, you know, ironically, the people that, you know, don't mind paying more money for a vehicle because they're paying for your experience, not necessarily just a car. And when you have that point, that's when you make crazy amounts of money in this business. And I tell people that all the time, and I preach it. And again, it's hard because, again, a lot of people's mentality is just so short term. And, you know, a lot of them, frankly, are like, I don't know if this is going to be my career. This is just my job. And so that's a totally different mindset as well. So they have to be dedicated that this is their career. This is what they see doing 5 or 10 years down the line. Because if they think like that, then they know that I have to build a book of business so I have repeat sustainable work. I don't have to work 60, 70 hours a week. I can work 30, 40 hours and get the same amount of results, if not better. And so those are things that they have to weigh. And if we as an industry do that, I think that it'll reduce our turnover. Uh, because, people obviously think sales is, working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and it doesn't have to be if you work smart.
Yeah, I tell everybody, listen, if you have to work 60 hours a week to get your job done, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
I promise you, you are doing it wrong. And you when you made that switch in your head, you said in the book, when you made that switch in your head, you started looking around to the people who were selling 50, 100 cars a month and trying to figure out what they were doing. And you said success leaves clues.
Yeah, absolutely. When after I got let go at the Cadillac store as a pre-owned manager, and my wife's in the hospital, with my youngest daughter, I was like, I'm going back to the last dealership I was at. I said, this is my career. I'm really gonna dig in and see what people are doing. So I Google search, I looked online, I reached out to people, I went to seminars, you name it, I did it. And as I was learning stuff, I would just pick one or two things to implement, and I try it. And okay, that worked good. If not, okay, I'll put it to the side. And I kept trying things. And then I was starting to see results. And so I knew it worked. And I had a formula down, because actually right before I got promoted, I was getting to the point to where I was transitioning. I was forcing myself not to take up so I could work on building my book of business, because I didn't want to get that instant gratification. I was thinking long term. So then I could work, 30, 40 hours and sell 40, 50 cars a month, because I knew it was possible, because I've seen other people in the industry do it.
So does it work the other way? Now you're sitting in the big chair in the big office, and you're looking to find someone who can pick that up. What are the clues you're looking for on the front end for someone who might have a career in the car business, either as a long-term salesperson that they're going to be in for years and build a book of business that they can live off of forever, or that they're going to progress up and now you're working for a corporate dealer. You can advance through management, be the general manager of a dealership, and even into the corporate end of things. So what are you looking for to find someone to put on one of those two paths?
Well, the main thing, I just ask them, what their end goal is. Is their goal to move up in management? Is their goal to be on the floor? And if their goal is to move up to management, then I find out why do they want to move up? And then, we figure out what the game plan is. And I just tell them, this is what I did. And again, what works for me may not necessarily work for you, but they're basic fundamental steps. But, the main thing I always tell people is have a servant mentality, because if you don't, you won't last long. I don't care who you are. I mean, be humble enough to say, I don't know what I don't know, but let's figure it out together. And genuinely care for the people around you, genuinely want to build a relationship, genuinely want to see them to win. And don't worry, don't make decisions just based on just money. Make decisions that's based on what's best for the team and the store overall. And I always tell people, if you do that, the money will follow.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, Bob Burton, great author of the book, The Go Giver. He told me there's no such thing as there's no 50-50. It's not win-win. It's all about the customer. Yeah. And if you can't figure that out, you're probably looking at a short-term path.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always tell people that dictators get shot. If you have a dictator mentality, you will not be in the business long. I mean, people get turned off by that kind of stuff, especially nowadays.
Yeah. One of the rules you talked about in the book was the role of habit, the role of consistency of building yourself up. Thomas is asking in the chat, so do you believe salespeople and managers create good habits in tough times and bad habits in good times? Like you were just saying, and how do we prevent those bad habits from taking ground so that when times do change, everyone's ready to get in there and actually do the work of connecting with the customers?
Well, in my opinion, it starts with management. They have to want to be successful. They have to want to see, okay, this is what's happening. And if they have a sense of urgency like it was pre-COVID, it'll be fine. But the problem is everybody gets comfortable because everybody's making money. But the market's going to change. We know that. We don't know if it's going to be next month or a year from now or 2 years from now, but we know it's going to change. So let's pretend that it's changed now. Let's build the habits now that you would normally do pre-COVID. Make the phone calls, do the follow-up, make sure a manager talks to a customer, do training on the product, care about the guests. You do all that, and then when the market does change, you'll be prepared. Because I promise you, your competition, majority of these stores are not going to be doing that. They're going to wait till market changes, and when that happens, they're going to fall into place. Then it's going to take time for them to build up. A lot of people are going to quit because all of a sudden I'm having to make twice the calls to make half amount of money and it's not right. It just, a lot of things happen. So if you set up expectations up front, you shouldn't have those problems, or not as bad.
Some of the things that you did as a salesperson, and now is a great time for salespeople to be doing this, because what's just coming through the door, and the money's great, and because of the margins. But even if you have a one and done customer, now, when I interviewed Ollie Rita, number one car salesperson in the world, he told me that he doesn't think about selling a car to a single person. He thinks about selling a car to the entire family for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
And some of the stuff that you did, the personal branding stuff, and building your website, and sending out videos, and sending birthday cards and holiday cards with your face on them, because everybody loves a smiling face and big, beautiful eyes. So putting your face on Facebook, putting your face on birthday cards and thank you cards. You did all these things, and people can start doing those now to build that future, to give them options down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I always tell people snail mail is old school, but it works because nobody does it.
Yeah.
And I challenge people all the time. I said, sending out something like a birthday card, a handwritten birthday card goes a long way, because everybody's used to getting a text or an email. People appreciate a handwritten birthday card. Hey, happy birthday. And I'll let you on a secret, which a lot of people don't know. My handwriting is terrible. So it took a lot for me to sit there and make sure that, I did it right. But, people appreciated that. And yeah, my holiday cards I would do. And I did holiday cards. I didn't do Christmas cards because I know not everybody celebrates Christmas. So I always did holiday cards. And I sent mine out right after Thanksgiving, because I wanted to make sure it was the first card they got. And normally when I did it, it was a picture of me and my whole family. I wanted them to know that I wasn't just a car salesperson. I had my family, and this is who I support, and this is why I work hard.
Yeah. And the great thing is, if you send it out on Thanksgiving, it stays on the mantle all month long. And whatever you're sending out, this is stuff that stays on the refrigerator. In some cases, I send out a lot of cards. I talked to a manager the other day. I sent him a card when he opened his new store 7 years ago. He told me that's been sitting on a bulletin board across from his desk every day for the last 7 years. So the great things about snail mail and old school is it sticks around.
It does because nobody does it. And so, and I challenge people right now, go the opposite way too. Send out videos, send out video chats, send out video emails. And a lot of people are very uncomfortable with that, because, putting a video together is, kind of nerve wracking. But I say, just step out the comfort zone and try it. The worst because you can always edit it before you send it. Worst case scenario, they don't like it. No big deal. But is it any different than sending out a snail mail?
Yeah.
I mean, there are not going to be too many people mad at you when you send a video. Hey, Mr. Smith, I thought about you. Happy birthday. Hope everything's going well. People are going to love that, because nobody's doing that. So you try to find things to do that are unique in the market that nobody else is doing. And that helps you stand out.
Yeah, I tell everyone, no one's sitting around the dealership practicing leaving a voicemail, doing their voicemail, taking 100 takes. You leave the call and you leave it and you make another call. Video is just the same thing. It's just the camera's on.
Exactly.
That's all. So we got a question coming in here that talks about the customer experience, doing things for the customer, and that he talks about the time that it takes to close the deal. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that the people dislike about the car business is how long it takes to buy a car. Do you think that's a problem, and how do we fix that?
It is a sore point. We all as an industry recognize that, and I know we're working on streamlining that. I was reading an article the other day that I guess it's Gen Z. That's their huge pain point. They don't want to wait. They're, because they're used to getting everything quick now. So we as an industry have to adjust. And I think that's why a lot of people are transitioning and do as much stuff as possible online. So when they come in, the car is ready to go, or we take the car to them directly. But that definitely is a pain point that we have to, as an industry, figure out.
So we're going through these changes. We have these pain points that we're overcoming. There's the old school stuff that still works, and the opportunities that are there. Let's talk about before we open it up. Let's talk about the future. What do you think is going to change? Let's put the cap on 2 years. We've been through the strangest 2 years that either of us has seen in the car business. What's the next couple of years look like, and what do dealers and salespeople need to do now to start getting ready for that?
Well, obviously, the next big evolution is the electric car. And we as an industry have to figure out what that looks like, not only for sales, but for service as well. We need to learn to speak that language. Like for example, Lexus, we have a vehicle coming out early next year, our first car, but they have multiple cars coming down the line, and all the manufacturers are the same way. But we have to know that's a different type of guest versus a traditional one as far as what their expectations are. And so us being able as an industry set up the expectations of how that shift's going to work. And I think that again, the next challenge is how much can we do online and what does that look like for the not only for the salesperson, but for the dealership as well. And the guests. What is the next online transition as far as being able to do all the paperwork from a legal point of view completely online, so where they don't have to come in at all. Obviously I think in the next couple of years that'll be the big thing to figure out.
I think, and everyone's always looking for the silver bullet. And I think digital retailing is that thing. It got this, and everybody got this. Electric vehicles are another sore spot that everyone is all or nothing. And we were either going to be digital retailing and EVs, or we're going to be old school and internal combustion engine. And that's not the way customers think. They could not care less. They want to get what they want with the least amount of trouble and the least amount of time as possible. And whatever tools you have to use to get that, even digital retailing, you got to be a human being at the other end of it, or it's just going to be another robot getting in the way.
Absolutely. And that I think, in my opinion, that's something that these manufacturers that are trying to go direct to consumer are missing, is that human element. Yeah, I know that for example, Tesla, that's what they do, but I think that for the most part, people still want to interact with humans when it comes to this. They just don't want to feel like they're getting screwed over, and they want to deal with somebody that feel like they know what they're doing. So that's I think once we figure out that balance, I think we'll be fine as an industry.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's one human being talking to another human being, and the human connection is going to win every single time, as long as you act like a human being. We got a couple of minutes. Anyone want to open it up? Have a comment or a question for Charles? We can free for all. Just unmute and hop in if you feel froggy.
Here? You need to go to here, or where else? Here. Yeah. What car is that?
All right. So William, you were about to jump in.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in if
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I'm saying there is a faster way. Instead of just putting the onus on, getting the car ready for when the customer arrives. That's great and everything, but it's so much faster when you can get the information from the customer about their trade, about the background of what you're looking at, and have all the documents prepared so that when they get there, you're just checking the car out, verifying that it's what you expected it to be as far as the trade goes, if there is one, what the amount owed is going to be, if there is any. And then while that's getting checked out by the management, the salesperson can then be taking the customer out on the test drive to make sure the car is everything that they expected it to be when they're looking at buying one. So by the time you get on the test drive, everything's done. It's just, are you in or you out? But here's what we figured out for you.
Yeah, which is why it's very important to build that repeat and referral business. Because if you have that repeat and referral business, trust is already there. They're going to take your word for it, and it's a quick, easy deal. It's way quicker than somebody just walking in fresh off the door.
So with
much faster.
with Ali Rita told me it's 4 times faster. That's the difference. 4 times faster, you can close the deal faster. But a lot of that is because not only the trust, but because of the disconnect with the transactional customers. They put the lead in at cars.com. They've entered all this information 4 times by the time they get to you. And most of the time, the salesperson wants to start collecting it again when they sit down, because they've got to go through their road to the sale. And I think that is all internal communication, and be ready to get the deal done when it's time to do the deal.
100%.
I got a quick question for Charles and William.
Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
There's a couple comments flying around earlier about, days supply, right? So we used to have like a 20-year relationship with Nissan. If you went pre-pandemic and took all the Nissans on the lots for all the dealers across the country, you had about 360,000 vehicles sitting there. Today, it's around 17,000, right? So their days supply went from, 65, 70, something like that, down to single digits. And I know it's climbing a little bit. But at the end of the day, OEMs are saying one thing, right? They want to keep day supply low. I just don't know if I'm buying that. And here's why. OEMs make their money wholesaling ICE vehicles, especially the trucks and SUVs. Sedans are only 25% of the vehicles sold today anyway, right? Well, every time they're wholesaling those vehicles to Charles and William, I mean, they're making the most money that they can on those trucks and SUV. And OEM EV margins are about 30% less than ICE vehicles, right? Pre-COVID, those plants were running around 80% capacity. Today, they're at 60. I just have a feeling that when they can, they're going to ramp those plant production back up to 80, 85%, Because I think they got to fund those. I think they got to wholesale those trucks and SUVs so they can fund their EV initiatives. Those initiatives, I mean, Ford, 11 billion on a plant in Tennessee and Kentucky, Hyundai, 5 billion on a plant in Georgia. You got R&D, you got battery, you got massive overhead. It's hard to make the math work. I know they'll continue to figure it out. But for me, when somebody from the factory saying, yeah, we want to keep day supply low, I don't know if I'm buying that because they got to sell those trucks and SUVs to fund their habit. And I just don't know if I'm a believer in that yet. So I just wanted to hear what Charles and William would have to say about something like that.
That's why I said I agree with you. I am fearful that, 5 years down the line, it could creep up to that level. I hope it doesn't.
Right.
But right now they're emphasizing, all the manufacturers emphasizing turn, i.e. how quick you sell the car once it hits a lot. And obviously the dealers that turn the cars faster get more access to inventory than dealers that don't. But yeah, I do agree that could be a issue down the line. They creep up to, where they said 20 now, it could be 5 years from now, 40, 50, could be 60 again if they see, they need the money for their R&D and to pay their bills.
Well, and with the run to EVs and everything, all of a sudden they've got to be able to manage the electrical grid as well. So if we're having brownouts and blackouts like crazy in California because they're pushing for that so hard there, and the rest of the country knows that they're not going to have that ability to match up because they're running slower. I mean, they're going to have to do something in the meantime. So I don't know that it's going to hit up so fast, but I may see. I would imagine they'll do things like little price increases here and there as we go along, just so they can hit their targets for revenue, but not necessarily have it to where the cars are going to get pumped out any faster or any more bulk, because they want to keep that demand up, and if the supply is down, the demand is going to stay high. And then from the dealer standpoint, if they like it where it is, where they're not paying all the bank fees for having cars in their inventory for extensive periods of time, they don't have any type of incentive to move things much faster anyway. They like having a list that they can build off of, and so when the car arrives at the dealership, they can sell it right off the delivery truck because they already have a reservation on it.
Yep.
Yeah. They're selling. They used to sell off the lot. Now they sell off the list, right?
Yeah.
I got dealers that sell off the wall. They keep all the invoices hanging on the wall. When the truck gets sold, they pull that invoice down. It's gone. It won't be here for 3 months, but it's gone now. But I think the deal from the manufacturers is it's a big game of chicken. It's just to see who blinks first, because I guarantee you get to the end of the fiscal year and Ford's in danger of losing that F-150 as being the top selling truck in America. They're going to open up the spigots and they'll get those assembly lines rolling. They'll crank those trucks out.
And I find it interesting. I can't remember if it was in automotive news, and it made big news when, Jim Farley from Ford said, we got to go to 100% online with EVs. There'll be no EV inventory at the dealerships. It's direct to consumer and all that. I mean, is he looking at Tesla? Is he looking at Elon Musk and saying Elon spends $0 on advertising? His only outlet's Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about what Ford spends. I mean, your typical old OEM wholesale gross profits on nice vehicles, 15 to 17%. Elon's making 33. Elon's like, I got the Tesla 3, a $35,000 EV everyone can afford. Now he's had 7 price increases. You can't touch one for under 47 grand. I'm just wondering if Farley's looking at the margins and how Elon's going to market and saying, I can eliminate the dealer and do that too on the EV, but still keep the dealers happy with the ICE vehicles. I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I think the dealers are severely underestimated by Farley and what he's talking about. And at the end of the day, I've always put my trust in the dealers because they've always persevered every single time through thick and thin. And if Farley's thinking about going direct on EV and just having the dealer be the delivery center, getting a fee for doing that, I just think that's a slippery slope. And I think all they're looking at is the dollars, because he sees what Elon's margins are at 33%. He's not even half that. So that's kind of scary. I don't like it. I've always been a pro dealer guy, but that when Farley said that, I think it caught a lot of people's attention. I don't know if you all agree with that, but it was a very interesting comment that he made publicly.
No, I read that in automotive news, I guess a month ago when he said it. And yeah, I disagree. I think that he is trying to copy Tesla, and other manufacturers are watching, but I just feel bad for the dealers. I mean, think how many dealers like recently renovated their buildings and spent millions of dollars to renovate. All of a sudden, he's going to
Yeah.
cut them out on a hot new product. I don't think that's fair. And I think our dealerships as an industry, we're getting misaligned for selling cars over MSRP. And while I understand their point of view, I always educate people that, if you're used to selling 500 cars a month and all of a sudden you're selling 50 or 75, well, you still have the personnel like you're selling 500. And you still you got to pay your bills, or else you got to lay people off. And the other thing is that, I tell people, I say, you're getting more for your trade than you have, thousands more than you normally would in any given time. And you see people all the time flipping these cars on different websites. I look at different like Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, where people are flipping these cars and making 50, 100 grand themselves. And
Yeah.
so, and nobody complains when they're doing it. And, again, it's a delicate balance, but I heard that was one of the things he was complaining about, is that people are charging way over MSRP. And granted, there are some dealers out there that are getting greedy. In my
Yeah,
opinion.
you saw Mac Hake in the Corvette thing where
Yes.
they got kind of publicly shamed about,
Yes.
they sold it, I don't know, what was it, a Zeo
90 over MSRP.
90
Yeah.
over MSRP, and then
Yeah.
all the people who had incoming ones ordered, he took them back down to MSRP. But if they, he kind of got called out in public. That was kind of crazy. You don't usually
was.
see something like that.
It was. Yeah, that one was bad. But then those same people can buy that car and flip it for 90 over MSRP.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the thing to remember, the magic behind all this is when Farley says all this stuff, when Carvana says all the things that they say and all the things that they do, and CarMax and even Elon Musk, they're really not selling cars; they're selling stock. They're talking to Wall Street when they do that, and what that's all smoke and vapor. That's who knows what's going to happen. They're in the business of pumping that stock up. Farley's bonus is based on stock price,
Yeah.
and so they want to drive that stock up, and they can not only can they don't have to necessarily get the margins on the EVs. But the PE ratios are much bigger for EV sellers. 7:40. So we've had a great conversation. Maybe run just a little bit long. One more question. Does anybody have anything or comment before we wrap it up? There we go. Everyone looks lovely. There's Mom. Hi, Mom. She turned on her camera. Mark Easter, the old guy back in there. Hey, Mark, Guy, Baron, Grant, Sherry. Thank you so much for popping in. Charles, last word. What do you have to say about the rules to the game in your life in the car business?
Well, thank you, Terry, for having me on. The book just talks about beginning life, how I got in business by accident, and just perseverance. Everybody goes through stuff. They fail and struggle, and you just got to figure it out and figure out, is this really the career for you? If it is, sky's the limit. It really is. This is a business to where there is no income salary cap. The only cap is the limit you put on yourself. I tell people that all the time. So you put in the work and you have a goal of how much money you want to make, just do the math, work backwards, and you can get there. Very easy.
Yeah.
The book is available on Amazon. Visit there and get you a copy. And
It's also available on Apple and Audible as well.
Apple and Audible. Did you read here? This is my question, because I'm researching this now. Are you the voice guy? Are you?
I am the voice guy.
Yeah, you're the voice
Yes.
guy on the book.
You can pull that off, Charles. Many of us can't.
I didn't think I could either. I just said I didn't want to pay anybody to do it. I said, I'm going to do it myself.
That's a tough call. I'm making that decision right now. Charles, thank you so much for popping in. Everyone, thank you for joining. I'll get this the video posted up on YouTube and in my my Facebook group and on my webpage and everything over the next couple of days. And y'all stay in touch. Thanks, everyone.